If you've ever walked into a room and immediately thought, wait, why did I come in here? Or wonder where is your phone? When you're holding it, you're not alone. These small lapses aren't signs you're losing your edge. They're signs your brain is overloaded. And that's what we're talking about today. What brain fog really is, why it happens, and how you can clear it so your mind feels sharp, steady, and like you again. That starts with understanding just how common this really is. 72% of adults feel brain fog at least once a week. That's nearly 3 out of 4 people, across all ages. But people rarely call it brain fog. Instead, they say, I'm tired. I can't focus today. I must be getting older. My brain just isn't cooperating. We normalize it instead of naming it. Brain fog doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means something is draining your mental energy and clarity. To recognize that signal, it helps to notice how brain fog shows up in everyday life. It doesn't knock on the door and announce itself. It slips in quietly, through small moments that are easy to dismiss. You walk into a room and stop. Not because you're distracted, but because the reason you're there has completely disappeared. You're mid-sentence, telling a story you've told 100 times, and suddenly the word you need just isn't there. You know it, you can feel it, but it won't come. You read an email, an article, even a text, and a few seconds later you realize none of it actually landed. Your eyes moved, but your mind didn't. You notice you're mentally slower than usual. Not confused, just a half step behind. Even on days you slept well enough, and maybe the most frustrating part, you're technically present, but you don't feel fully there. You're listening, but not absorbing, participating, but not engaged, like you're living life slightly behind a pane of glass. Individually, these moments seem harmless, easy to laugh off, easy to excuse. But when they start stacking up, they're telling you something important. Your brain isn't failing, it's overloaded. And that brings us to the real question. What's creating that overload in the first place? Most people assume brain fog is just stress, but stress is only one piece of the picture. Brain fog usually comes from 4 systems being overwhelmed at the same time. First, there's inflammation. When inflammation rises, from stress, certain foods, poor sleep, or long-term tension, thinking becomes less efficient. It's like trying to move through a cluttered room. You can still get where you're going, but everything takes more effort. Then there's sleep debt. Sleep is when your brain does its nightly cleanup. When sleep is cut short or inconsistent, yesterday's mental clutter carries into today, and the next day, until everything feels heavier. Next comes chronic stress. Not dramatic stress, but constant background stress. It's like carrying a backpack you never take off. Over time, it drains your mental energy and makes simple things feel harder. And finally, digital overload. Your brain is constantly switching between emails, messages, alerts, news, and decisions. It's like trying to follow one conversation while several others are happening nearby. Your brain can do it, just not endlessly. Each of these is manageable on its own. Together, they create the perfect conditions for brain fog. The good news is that your brain isn't stuck this way. Neuroplasticity means your brain is always capable of change up to now. We've talked about what brain fog feels like and what can contribute to it. This is where the conversation shifts. Because neuroscience shows us something important. Your brain is not static. It is constantly responding to how it's used, supported, and challenged. That ability is called neuroplasticity, and it means your brain remains capable of change throughout your life. That's why the first point matters. You can rewire thought patterns. This doesn't mean forcing positive thinking. It means that repeated experiences, how you focus, how you rest, how you respond to stress, gradually shape the way your brain processes information. As those patterns shift, something else happens. You can strengthen focus and memory. When attention is used consistently and overload is reduced, the brain becomes more efficient at filtering distractions and retaining information. Focus isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something the brain can improve with support. And importantly, you can restore clarity at any age. Research shows that while certain changes occur with aging, the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize does not simply shut off. Clarity can improve in your 30s, 50s, 70s, and beyond. This is where the idea of habits becomes critical. Small habits reshape neural pathways. Not dramatic changes, not one-time efforts, but small, repeated behaviors that signal to the brain what matters and what can be deprioritized. Which leads to the final point on this slide. Your brain is not fixed. It adapts to what you repeatedly do, what you practice strengthens, what you reduce fades, and over time, your brain reflects the patterns you give it. So, the question becomes, if your brain is always adapting, what daily habits help guide that change in a supportive direction? Once you understand what creates brain fog, the next question is obvious. What do I actually do about it, day to day? And here's the good news. Restoring clarity doesn't require an overhaul of your life. It comes from a few small, repeatable resets. First, sleep. Not perfect sleep. Predictable sleep. Predictable sleep. When you go to bed and wake up around the same time, your brain knows when to clean itself, when to store memories, and when to power back up. 7 to 9 hours isn't about willpower. It's about rhythm. Next is movement. Your brain thrives on blood flow. 10 to 20 minutes of intentional movement each day. A walk, light exercise, even gentle mobility helps reset attention and energy. And just as important, small movements throughout the day. Standing up, stretching, walking for a minute. These prevent the mental slowdown that comes from sitting too long. Then, there's breathing, not meditation retreats. 60 to 90 seconds. Slow, controlled breathing tells your nervous system that it's safe to shift out of stress mode. And when stress drops, clarity rises. Food matters too, especially what creates inflammation. Highly processed foods and excess alcohol quietly tax the brain's energy systems. Reducing them isn't about restriction. It's about freeing up mental bandwidth. Finally, light. Morning sunlight is one of the strongest signals you can give your brain. It sets your circadian rhythm, improves sleep later that night, and sharpens focus during the day. None of these habits are dramatic. That's the point. They work because they're small, consistent signals that tell your brain how to function better. Your brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, but it uses roughly 20% of the energy you take in every day. So when your brain feels slow, foggy, or drained, it's often not because something is wrong with you. It's because your brain is running low on the raw materials it needs. Think of this as fuel quality. Here are the 5 nutrients your brain relies on most, explained in everyday language, and how to get them naturally if supplements aren't your thing. First, omega-3 seconds. These are the building blocks of brain cells. They help your neurons communicate smoothly, support memory, and calm inflammation that can slow thinking. When omega-3 seconds are low, thoughts can feel sticky, like they don't quite flow. You'll find them in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel, as well as plant sources like chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts. Next, magnesium. Magnesium is your brain's calm-down signal. It helps relax the nervous system, improve sleep quality, and reduce that wired but tired feeling so many people live with. If your brain feels tense, restless, or overstimulated, magnesium often plays a role. Good sources include almonds, pumpkin seeds, spinach, avocado, and yes, even dark chocolate. Then there are B vitamins, especially B6, B9, and B1 too. Think of these as your brain's energy drivers. They help convert food into usable brain energy, support memory, focus, and keep your nerves functioning properly. When B vitamins are low, mental fatigue and brain fog often show up together. You'll find them in eggs, fish, poultry, leafy greens, lentils, beans, and citrus fruits. Next, antioxidants. Antioxidants help clean up the everyday wear and tear your brain accumulates from stress, aging, and normal metabolism. They protect neurons from damage and help your mind feel clearer instead of bogged down. It's less about boosting your brain and more about keeping it protected. Some of the best sources include blueberries, blackberries, broccoli, green tea, and leafy greens. And finally, choline. Choline is essential for memory and learning. It helps your brain produce acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter critical for focus, recall, and mental sharpness. If memory feels fuzzy or concentration slips easily, choline is often part of the picture. You'll find it in eggs, chicken, turkey, soybeans, and Brussels sprouts. When your brain gets the nutrients it needs, it's like switching from low-grade fuel to premium. Nothing about you changes, but everything about how your brain functions starts to feel smoother, faster, and clearer. So, if brain fog is your brain asking for a reset, the next question is simple. What actually helps? The good news is, there are proven ways to strengthen focus, processing speed, and memory, and they're far more practical than most people expect. It starts with mental exercises. Your brain sharpens itself through use. Puzzles, problem-solving, reading, and learning new skills all challenge your memory and keep your thinking flexible. These activities remind your brain how to adapt, and over time, that regular challenge builds resilience instead of fatigue. But challenge without recovery doesn't work. That's where structured breaks come in. Using focused work intervals followed by short resets helps prevent mental fatigue before it builds up. Your brain isn't designed to concentrate nonstop. Brief breaks give it a chance to reset so you can return more alert, more accurate, and less mentally drained. Stress matters too, more than we realize. When stress stays high, your nervous system shifts into survival mode, and clear thinking takes a back seat. Deep breathing, yoga, or quiet time help calm the nervous system. And as stress levels drop, focus and mental clarity come back online naturally. Hydration is another quiet factor that has a big impact. Even mild dehydration slows cognition and makes distractions harder to ignore. Your brain depends on adequate hydration to process information efficiently. Staying hydrated throughout the day supports steadier focus and mental energy. And when you connect all of this, one key idea stands out. Small, consistent inputs lead to a clearer, faster mind. These strategies aren't about doing more or pushing harder. They're about supporting your brain in ways that add up, helping clarity return and stay, day after day. So after everything we've talked about, here's the most important thing to remember. Your brain can feel sharp again, starting today. Not someday. Not after a major life overhaul. Today. The first takeaway is simple, but powerful. Consistency wins. Small habits done regularly create big clarity over time. You don't need perfection. You need repetition. You need repetition. The brain responds to what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. Next, sleep isn't optional. It's foundational. Sleep is where your brain clears waste, strengthens memory, and resets its ability to focus. When sleep improves, cognitive performance follows. Almost everything feels harder when sleep is missing, and clearer when it's restored. Another key point is overload. When you reduce mental overload, focus and energy come back. Your brain works best when it isn't constantly juggling inputs, notifications, and unfinished tasks. Less noise creates more clarity. Movement matters too, more than people expect. Movement accelerates mental clarity. Even light activity increases blood flow to the brain and improves processing speed. You don't need intense workouts. You need regular motion that reminds your brain and body they're connected. And finally, this may be the most hopeful takeaway of all. Your brain is adaptable. You can reset at any age. You can reset at any age. Your brain isn't locked into its current state. Through neuroplasticity, it changes in response to how you live, think, move, and rest. Improvement is always possible, no matter where you're starting from. So if you take one thing with you, let it be this. A clearer, calmer, more energized mind isn't a distant goal. It's built from the small choices you make every day. Your brain is ready. Now it's your turn.